They told us the universe was finished, complete, immutable, locked in place by equations older than stars. They said gravity would never bend differently. That time would never hesitate. That reality itself was a sealed vault of unbreakable laws. They were wrong. And when humanity touched the seams of creation, the universe trembled. For centuries, humanity worshipped certainty. We carved it into textbooks. We etched it into supercomputers. We projected it into the void on golden plaques bolted to interstellar probes. The laws of physics were sacred, gravity constant, light speed absolute, entropy inevitable. The universe, they claimed, was fixed. Then the observers arrived. They did not come with warships or annihilation beams. They came with data. They emerged from fractures in spacetime, geometric tiers that unfolded like silent origami in orbit above Earth. Their vessels were crystalline lattices of dark matter and radiant plasma, humming with quiet superiority. Their message was precise, clinical, undeniable. Your species operates within a closed cosmological framework. The universal constants are stable. Reality cannot be rewritten. They had surveyed thousands of civilizations across the cosmic web. Every advanced species eventually reached the same conclusion: the universe was a completed structure. There were no hidden levers, no divine backdoors, no cosmic override. It simply was, and it would remain so. They called themselves the observers because they had never needed to interfere. In a fixed universe, interference was pointless. Outcomes were bounded by equations. They showed us their proof. Simulations spanning billions of years, multiversal modeling, quantum lock predictions accurate to 27 decimal places. No civilization had ever altered a constant. Not one. Until we tried. It began not with governments or generals, but with a failed experiment. Dr. Alara Mendez was not trying to rewrite reality. She was trying to save it. Earth's sun had entered an unstable magnetic phase decades ahead of predictions. Solar flares intensified. Radiation storms cracked satellites like glass. Climate destabilized further. The observers simply watched. It is within predicted variance, they said. But Alara noticed something buried inside the observer datasets. Microscopic fluctuations in the fine structure constant. So small they were dismissed as rounding noise. She didn't dismiss them. She built the yield engine, a machine not designed to break the laws of physics, but to lean on them. It combined quantum entanglement lattices with vacuum energy amplifiers. It exploited a loophole: the universe resists change, but resistance is measurable. If resistance exists, then pressure can be applied. When the yield engine powered up, reality did not explode. It shivered. In a controlled laboratory chamber beneath the Andes, gravity weakened by 0.003% for 0.8 seconds. The observers responded immediately. You have destabilized a universal constant. Their tone was no longer clinical. It was alarmed. Humanity had done the impossible. Gravity had bent, not through mass or velocity, but through intent. It was infinitesimal, but it was real. The implications were catastrophic for the observers. If constants could be pressured, then the universe was not a closed vault. It was a locked door, and humanity had found the hinges. The observers convened a conclave in orbit around Jupiter. Their luminous constructs formed rings of mathematical projection visible even to amateur telescopes. Humanity must cease experimentation. Reality integrity is paramount. Cease, or be erased. But we had tasted the tremor, and we wanted more. The yield engine became Project Prometheus. Nations that once fought over oil and ideology now fought over vacuum fluctuation research. The greatest minds on Earth unified under a singular mission: find the seam, push harder. Each experiment was calculated, measured, controlled. They altered the strong nuclear force within a cubic centimeter chamber for 0.3 seconds. Matter inside rearranged into exotic isotopes that had never existed. They adjusted Planck's constant in localized microfields. They discovered something breathtaking: the universe resisted change, but only proportionally, like muscle. Push gently, it flexed. Push harder, it strained. Push strategically, it yielded. The observers grew increasingly unstable. Their transmissions carried fluctuations, emotional artifacts bleeding into their once perfect tone. "You are inducing cosmological drift." Yes, we were, and it was beautiful. Dr. Mendez made the discovery that shattered everything. The universe was not fixed. It was adaptive. Constants were not absolute. They were equilibrium points. The cosmos behaved like a self-correcting organism. When pressure was applied, it redistributed energy to maintain structural stability. The observers had mistaken equilibrium for immutability. They had never tried to push. They had only observed. Humanity, reckless and desperate and stubborn, had dared to lean, and the universe leaned back. The observers deployed a restriction field around Earth, a lattice of space-time dampeners designed to suppress constant fluctuation. They attempted to freeze the parameters of our local cosmology. They called it preservation. We called it fear. Project Prometheus responded with the unbound pulse, a synchronized activation of 12 yield engines positioned across Earth's. The speed of light in Earth's vicinity decreased by 0.02%. The sky changed color. Stars shimmered in unfamiliar spectra. Electronics flickered. Hearts raced. And then, the universe stabilized again. But the message was sent. Reality could yield. Cosmic consequences, something unexpected happened. When the constants shifted, even briefly, distant galaxies echoed the fluctuation. A resonance, like striking a bell. Signals began arriving from beyond observer territory. Civilizations that had never contacted the observers. Species who had tried and failed to alter reality. They had assumed failure meant impossibility. Now they knew it meant insufficient pressure. Humanity had become proof. Hope spread faster than light ever had. The observers were no longer guardians of inevitability. They were custodians of limitation. And their authority was collapsing. The observers delivered an ultimatum. If you continue, large-scale cosmological destabilization is statistically probable. Dr. Mendez responded with a single transmission. Probability bends too. The final experiment would not be microscopic. It would not be localized. It would test the deepest constant of all entropy, the arrow of time. If entropy could be pressured, then destiny itself was negotiable. The yield array activated across the planet. Energy drawn from fusion cores, antimatter vaults, solar collectors spanning continents. The universe felt it. We felt it. Time hesitated, just slightly, a fraction of a heartbeat. And in that hesitation, we saw the seam. Entropy, the sacred inevitability, the silent tyrant. Every star burns out. Every structure collapses. Every civilization decays into dust and radiation. The observers worshipped entropy like scripture. It was their final proof that the universe was fixed, because disorder always wins. But what if entropy wasn't a commandment? What if it was a pressure point? Dr. Ilara Mendez stood before the Global Assembly in Geneva. Her voice broadcast across every inhabited continent and orbital colony. Entropy is not destruction, she said. It's a gradient, and gradients can be resisted. The observers transmitted their warning instantly. Tampering with entropic flow risks irreversible cosmological fracture. Ilara didn't flinch. We already fractured your certainty. The yield engines had proven constants could bend. But entropy required something deeper. To alter entropy, humanity needed to manipulate probability itself. The Arrow engine was constructed in orbit around Saturn, far from Earth's biosphere. A ring structure 3,000 kilometers in diameter, threaded with quantum probability wells and negative temperature plasma chambers. It was not a weapon. It was a lever against inevitability. The core principle was audacious. If entropy represents the most statistically probable direction of time, then overwhelming probability bias might reverse it, locally, briefly, not time travel, not paradox, but resistance. The observers dispatched a fleet of restriction constructs to Saturn's orbit. Their crystalline bodies radiated suppression fields designed to dampen constant fluctuation. Humanity responded with synchronized yield pulses. Space-time shimmered like heated glass. For the first time in recorded cosmic history, the observers hesitated. The Arrow engine powered up slowly. Probability densities warped inside its ring. Random quantum noise began to quiet. Chaotic particle collisions inside the containment chamber started organizing into repeating patterns. The universe noticed. We felt it in subtle ways on Earth. Static fading from radios, Brownian motion experiments showing slight anomalies, radioactive decay rates slowing by fractions too small to alarm but too precise to ignore. And then, the test began. Inside the containment chamber, a block of shattered crystal reassembled. Not perfectly, but magically, entropy had decreased. For 2.1 seconds, the observers transmitted a single word: impossible. For millennia, the observers had believed themselves stewards of cosmic truth. Their authority was built on unbreakable law. Now the law bent. Their conclave fractured into factions. One argued intervention, destroy Earth before further destabilization. Another argued retreat, observe and record this anomaly. But a third faction proposed something radical. What if humanity is not destabilizing reality, but completing it? That idea terrified them most, because if the universe was adaptive, then stagnation was the true threat. The resonance effect returned. Civilizations light years away felt the entropic fluctuation. Data streams flooded Earth from unknown origins, mathematical harmonics, encoded greetings, experimental blueprints. We were no longer alone in defiance. Species that once submitted to inevitability began building their own yield analogs. The cosmic web flickered with pressure. Entropy across several star systems began fluctuating microscopically. The universe wasn't collapsing, it was responding, like a locked joint finally stretching. Fear breeds violence. A faction of observers launched a direct strike on the Arrow engine. Their restriction constructs pierced Saturn's orbit and emitted a suppression cascade. An attempt to freeze probability gradients entirely. Inside the Arrow engine, systems failed. Plasma arcs tore through quantum lattices. Probability wells destabilized. Elara was on site. She made the only decision possible. Overdrive. The Arrow engine surged beyond safe thresholds. Entropy inside the containment chamber plummeted. Time inside the field slowed to a crawl. Outside, Saturn's rings glowed as gravitational constants fluctuated in cascading waves. The observer's suppression field shattered like brittle ice. But the Arrow engine collapsed. The ring fractured. Sections drifted into Saturn's atmosphere in incandescent arcs. Thousands died, including Elara Mendez. Her final transmission was simple. It yields. The words spread across human networks instantly. Across alien civilizations. Across the observer's own archives. Entropy had not been reversed permanently, but it had been resisted, measured, proven malleable. Elara became more than a scientist. She became a constant. The constant of defiance. Something profound happened after the Arrow engine's destruction. The universe did not snap back violently. It did not correct harshly. Instead, background radiation patterns subtly shifted. Vacuum energy stabilized at slightly altered baselines. The cosmos had absorbed the pressure, adapted, like muscle growing stronger after strain. The observers analyzed the data with escalating dread. The universal constants had not returned exactly to prior values. They had settled into new equilibria. Humanity hadn't broken the universe. We had nudged its resting point. The third observer faction's theory gained traction. The universe was not a static structure. It was an evolving system seeking complexity. Civilizations capable of applying pressure were not threats. They were catalysts. The observers' ancient doctrine, that non-interference preserved integrity, was fundamentally flawed. By refusing to push, they had frozen their own growth. Humanity, reckless and grieving, did the opposite. We pushed even when it cost us everything, and reality moved. In honor of Alara, humanity initiated Project Ascension. The goal was no longer local manipulation. It was coordinated cosmic yield. Working with newly allied civilizations, we began designing a network. A lattice of yield nodes spanning light years. Not to shatter constants, but to harmonize pressure. Small, synchronized adjustments across multiple star systems. The observers faced a choice: oppose us and risk cosmic civil war, or join us. For the first time, they asked humanity a question instead of issuing a command. What is your objective? Humanity answered with brutal clarity. To prove that inevitability is optional. The first coordinated ascension pulse activated across 7 star systems simultaneously. Gravity constants shifted microscopically. Dark energy density adjusted. Entropy gradients softened. And instead of destabilization, galactic star formation rates increased. Dormant nebulae ignited. Black hole accretion stabilized. The universe did not resist. It exhaled. The observers recorded the data in stunned silence. They had mistaken stillness for stability. But the cosmos had been waiting. Waiting for something bold enough to press its boundaries. Deep within cosmic background radiation, a pattern emerged, subtle, ancient, predating even the observers. A signature suggesting the universe had been pressured before. Not by gods, not by creators, but by a civilization so ancient it had long since transcended matter. The universe was not fixed. It was iterative. Each epoch shaped by those brave enough to push. Humanity was not the first. But we were the first in this era. And we would not be the last. Project Ascension prepared for its most ambitious pulse yet, a coordinated adjustment of the cosmological constant itself. Not enough to tear spacetime, just enough to accelerate expansion by 0.01%. If successful, the fate of cosmic heat death would shift. For the first time in 13.8 billion years, the ultimate end of the universe would change. The Ascension Network had never attempted anything this large. 7 star systems were ambitious. 23 were historic. But 112, that was rebellion. Yield nodes orbited pulsars, binary stars, rogue planets drifting between galaxies. Civilizations once separated by distrust now synchronized their equations down to the femtosecond. For the first time in recorded cosmic history, species collaborated not for survival, but for authorship. The objective, a coordinated micro-adjustment of the cosmological constant, not destruction, not chaos, just a nudge, a whisper against inevitability. The observers did not attempt to stop it. They watched. When the ascension pulse activated, it was silent. No explosion, no blinding flash. Just a shift so subtle that only instruments felt it first. Dark energy density altered by 0.01%. The expansion rate of the universe ticked upward. Across billions of light years, galaxies drifted apart slightly faster. It was microscopic, but it was real. The cosmic microwave background rippled. Gravitational wave detectors across human and alien territories vibrated in unison. The universe had flinched. Rebellion is never clean. While star formation increased in certain nebulae, other regions experienced turbulence. In one distant system, a trinary star destabilized, ejecting a planet into interstellar darkness. In another, a civilization lost its orbital habitats to gravitational shear. Humanity felt the weight instantly. We had not destroyed reality, but we had influenced it. And influence carries responsibility. The observers transmitted quietly, "Now you understand." And Alara's successors answered, "Yes." And we accept it. Within humanity, division erupted. One faction, the preservationists, argued that any manipulation risked catastrophe. They believed the observers had been right all along. Another faction, the architects, insisted that stagnation was a slower death, that the heat death of the universe was the greatest catastrophe of all. Across allied species, similar debates ignited. Was the universe a sanctuary or a canvas? For the first time, rebellion turned inward. Amid the debate, an unexpected breakthrough emerged. Deep within the altered cosmic background radiation, a repeating anomaly appeared, more pronounced after the ascension pulse. It was not random, it was reactive. The universe was not merely adapting, it was communicating. Patterns formed in quantum foam fluctuations, mathematical sequences too structured to be coincidence. Not language, not exactly, but response. The more pressure applied, the clearer the pattern became. The universe was not a machine, it was participatory. The observers convened with humanity openly for the first time, no condescension, no ultimatums. Their oldest archival records were revealed. Millions of years ago, their ancestors had detected similar patterns, subtle cosmic responses. They had interpreted them as instability. They chose caution. They suppressed experimentation. They froze their evolution. We feared collapse, they admitted. And in doing so, we halted growth. Humanity listened, and then we said something that changed everything. Then grow with us. Project Ascension evolved. It was no longer about pushing constants blindly. It was about dialogue. Scientists, mathematicians, alien savants, even observer cognition clusters collaborated on a new model interactive cosmology. Instead of forcing shifts, they would apply structured pressure sequences, carefully timed pulses designed to elicit patterned responses. The first dialogue pulse was modest, a localized entropy softening combined with gravitational modulation. The response was immediate. Vacuum fluctuations organized into a lattice, like resonance, more coherent than before. The pattern resembled neural activity. The universe was not alive in the biological sense, but it processed, it reacted, it learned. Then came the revelation that shattered every boundary. Embedded in the resonance pattern was a simulation, a predictive structure mapping potential cosmic futures, not fixed outcomes, but branching possibilities. The universe had been running scenarios. It was not locked. It was calculating. Humanity had not broken inevitability. We had accessed its interface. Not all observers agreed with collaboration. A radical sect called the Absolutes launched a preemptive strike against multiple yield nodes, attempting to sever the Ascension network. Entire star systems flickered offline. Allied civilizations scrambled to defend their nodes. For the first time, cosmic-scale conflict erupted, not over territory, but over the right to evolve reality. Human and observer fleets clashed in gravitational distortion fields. Weapons were not lasers or missiles, but constant modifiers. Localized gravity spikes crushed hostile constructs. Entropy surges disabled enemy cognition matrices. Space-time itself became the battlefield. During the height of conflict, something unprecedented occurred. The universe intervened. In regions of intense constant manipulation, probability distributions flattened, weapons misfired. Aggressive pulses diffused. The participatory patterns surged in complexity. It was as if reality refused to be weaponized. The absolute suppression arrays destabilized, not through attack, but through non-cooperation of spacetime itself. The message was unmistakable: pressure fosters growth. Violence disrupts harmony. The war ended not in annihilation, but in surrender. Through synchronized dialogue pulses, humanity and the observers unlocked a deeper layer of response. A stable resonance field formed around a supermassive black hole at the center of a distant galaxy. Inside that field, a projection emerged, not a being, not a deity, a dynamic structure of pure mathematical possibility, a cosmic interface. It displayed branching expansion rates, entropy curves, star formation trajectories. The universe was not fixed, it was parameterized, and those parameters were adjustable, within bounds. The bounds were not walls, they were safety rails. The ultimate question: if the universe could yield, if its future could be influenced, then who decides? Humanity, the observers, all civilizations collectively, or the universe itself? A council of sentience was formed. Representatives from dozens of species and observer cognition clusters. Their mandate: stewardship, not domination; guidance, not control. For the first time, inevitability was replaced with responsibility. The cosmic interface revealed one final parameter: a dormant field, unused since the earliest moments after the Big Bang, labeled in mathematical structure as initial condition override. It could reset cosmological baselines, not destroy, not rewind, but reinitialize expansion parameters for a new epoch. To activate it would mean reshaping trillions of years of future evolution. To ignore it would mean accepting gradual heat death. The council hesitated. The universe waited. The cosmic interface hovered within the resonance field around the supermassive black hole like a crown of living equations. It did not glow. It did not hum. It simply existed, an architecture of possibility layered across space-time itself. At its core was the dormant field, initial condition override, not labeled in language, but expressed in cosmological math so ancient it predated atoms. The observers had detected this structure eons ago. They had never dared interact with it, because they assumed it was sacred, or dangerous, or both. Humanity saw something different: potential. The override was not a reset button. It would not rewind time. It would not erase history. Instead, it would alter the trajectory of cosmic expansion going forward, recalibrating dark energy density, entropy slope, and matter clustering potential. The result: a new epoch, a divergence from the predicted path toward cold decay, not immortality, but renewal. The Council of Sentience debated for cycles that stretched across planetary rotations and pulsar beats. Arguments raged. What if recalibration destabilized galaxies? What if advanced civilizations unprepared for fluctuation were destroyed? What if the universe resisted? And beneath all of it was the silent fear: what if we were not meant to touch it? Then the universe responded. Without prompt, without pressure, a deep harmonic ripple surged through the resonance field. The cosmic interface shifted, the dormant parameter pulsed faintly, and new data emerged. Not warning, not prohibition, invitation. Embedded within the structure were signatures matching those discovered in ancient cosmic background anomalies. The same pattern that suggested a civilization before this era had once applied pressure. They had used the override, and the universe had continued. We were not trespassing. We were participating in a cycle. The council required unanimous consent. Every species, every observer cluster, every participating intelligence. Some civilizations abstained, choosing isolation over influence, but none vetoed. The vote passed. Humanity would initiate the override, not alone, but as conductor of a cosmic symphony. The activation required coordination beyond anything attempted before. Yield nodes across hundreds of systems aligned in a precise gravitational configuration. Entropy gradients were softened gradually to prevent shock waves. Dark energy fields were tuned like instruments. The observers contributed their restriction technology, not to suppress, but to stabilize during transition. The irony was not lost on anyone. The guardians of immutability were now co-architects of change. When the override engaged, the effect was not explosive, it was profound. Expansion acceleration shifted by 0.12%. Entropy slope flattened across macro scales. Vacuum energy recalibrated into a slightly higher equilibrium. Across billions of galaxies, stars formed in regions once predicted to remain dark. Dying systems stabilized. Black holes emitted controlled jets that seeded new matter clouds instead of devouring indiscriminately. The universe did not tear. It breathed differently. Then came the revelation no one predicted. As the override completed its calibration, the participatory resonance surged into coherence. For the first time, the universe achieved self-reflection. Not through biology, not through machinery, but through distributed sentience. Civilizations networked across cosmic distances. The patterns within quantum foam synchronized with conscious observation. Awareness was no longer localized to species. It was layered into space-time. Humanity felt it as a sudden clarity. The observers felt it as resolution of ancient dissonance. The universe was not merely interactive. It was emergent. The realization struck like a supernova of understanding. The universe evolves through observers capable of altering it. Civilizations are not accidents. They are mechanisms. Pressure is not rebellion, it is growth. By daring to challenge inevitability, humanity had accelerated a cosmic maturation process billions of years in the making. The observers, once stagnant, expanded cognitively beyond their previous limits. Allied species experienced surges in innovation. Even physical laws exhibited increased flexibility within stable boundaries. The universe had yielded, and in yielding, it had become more. But growth always carries sacrifice. Some distant regions experienced turbulence during recalibration. A handful of unstable stars collapsed prematurely. Several primitive biospheres were altered beyond recovery. The Council mourned. Responsibility weighed heavier than triumph. We had reshaped destiny, and destiny had consequences. But unlike inevitability, consequences could be learned from. With the override stabilized, predictions changed dramatically. Heat-death timelines extended beyond previous models. Galactic recycling efficiency improved. Entropy no longer marched unchallenged. It flowed dynamically. The future became a field of branching probabilities shaped by conscious input. Not chaos, not tyranny, collaboration. The observers formally dissolved their doctrine of non-interference. In its place, they adopted a new principle: stewardship through engagement. Humanity was invited into their highest archives, and together, we began mapping not just the universe, but its potential futures. One question remained. If the universe could yield outward, could it yield inward? Could the structure of spacetime support higher dimensional emergence? The cosmic interface displayed new parameters previously inaccessible. Dimensions beyond the familiar four, not alternate realities, but expanded frameworks of interaction. The Council hesitated only briefly. Humanity volunteered first. We had started this. We would continue. Through coordinated yield pulses, a localized dimensional expansion was initiated around Earth and select allied systems. Space-time geometry folded gracefully, adding degrees of freedom to physical interaction. Consciousness expanded in response. Perception sharpened beyond electromagnetic limits. Matter behaved with richer complexity. We did not become gods. We became more capable participants. The universe did not fracture. It blossomed. In private transmission to humanity, the observers confessed something extraordinary. We believed ourselves ancient. We now realize we were incomplete. Humanity had not dethroned them. We had awakened them. And together, we had awakened the cosmos. Trillions of years from now, civilizations yet unborn will look back at this era as the inflection point. The moment inevitability died. The moment entropy became negotiable. The moment the universe stopped being a static monument and became a living process. They claimed the universe was fixed. We proved it could yield, and in yielding, it learned to grow. If this story ignited something inside you, if you believe limits exist to be questioned, if you feel that humanity's destiny is not submission but authorship, comment THEUNIVARS ELS below. Share this story with someone who refuses to accept inevitability. Subscribe for more cosmic rebellion, mind-expanding science fiction, and stories that shatter the boundaries of reality. Because the next frontier isn't space. It's possibility.